Well, my friends, after many months of rumors, Samsung finally did it. They successfully revealed a brand new form factor, at least for them, the widescreen foldable, simply called the Galaxy Z Fold 8. And I don't know why, but I think a lot of people are excited for this. Everywhere I look, I'm seeing positive feedback, people seem genuinely interested, and there's an overall cautiously optimistic reception that is making me a bit excited for this release myself. If you don't already know, I was a huge champion of the first gen Pixel Fold, which already had this passport form factor almost 3 years ago. So it's kind of validating to see people coming back around to it. We have the rumored foldable iPhone going with the passport form factor, and now with the Z Fold 8, I just can't help but think Google was right from the very beginning. So real quick, let's take a quick look, and if you enjoy tech and Android coverage just like this, make sure to subscribe to the 9to5 Google YouTube channel because we have a lot more coming your way. As we can see with the Z Fold 8 Wide, there is a lot of benefits to having this wider cover display, mainly because it's a no compromises experience when compared to the narrow cover screen of the more traditional Fold lineup. The shorter height makes the entire display way more reachable and easier to use one-handed. The wider screen allows for a wider keyboard, which makes typing on the cover display way more comfortable compared to the keyboard on Samsung's taller, more narrower folds. Content should look somewhat better as well. Watching videos on the cover screen should format a lot nicer. Meanwhile, content on the inner screen should look way more natural, whether you're gaming or web browsing. You'll get closer to that traditional desktop layout, meaning you'll be consuming content in a more natural flow. Also, when closed up, this passport form factor is just simply more comfortable. All the weight is centralized more towards the center of your hand instead of being top heavy, and it fits more snugly into a pocket considering the smaller footprint. It's like carrying a tiny notebook as opposed to a taller rectangular phone, and it's a refreshing experience to say the least, and I'm glad to see we're trending back to this squarish passport style of device. And on top of all of that, Samsung thankfully included a ton of optimizations to the overall build that make this passport style a lot better than when we last left off with the first gen Pixel Fold. First off, it's much lighter than the first gen Pixel Fold at 201 grams versus an absolutely insane 283 grams. The weight was by far one of the worst parts of the OG Pixel Fold. So it's glad to see Samsung didn't make those mistakes, and in fact, it's Samsung's lightest foldable to date. That should go a long way in comfort and usability for the average person. Not to mention, it's also much thinner than the first gen Pixel Fold at 9.7mm instead of an absolutely crazy 12.1mm. And most importantly, the inner screen has had a ton of improvements too, with an anti-reflective coating, which helps a ton with reflections, paired with 3000 nits peak brightness. That is a much needed change, especially for these wider foldables if you ask me. We also have a new titanium alloy film and plate under the display that allows for a reduced crease, which I will say is noticeably reduced this time around, while also allowing for an overall thinner profile and improved durability. There's also Corning Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 on the cover screen, alongside an IP48 water protection rating. And all of this seems like great additions for Samsung's first widescreen foldable. To be clear, guys, there is room for both form factors. As I mentioned, Samsung intentionally split the lineup into two distinct foldables this year. You have the standard Z Fold 8 Wide starting at $1899 and the higher end Z Fold 8 Ultra starting at $2099, both with different purposes in mind. The wide version, at least according to Samsung, is built around content consumption, or as they would say, the wide variant features a content native form factor. The logic here is that the 7.6-inch inner screen gives you an immersive 4:3 aspect ratio for games, ebooks, watching videos, and other 16:9 media, or you can switch it to portrait mode for vertical content like social media. Meanwhile, the traditional looking Z Fold 8 Ultra is more for power users or multitaskers. The 8-inch inner screen gives you a workspace that is equivalent to two 6.5-inch phone displays side by side. The Ultra also has way better hardware with a 200 megapixel main camera alongside a 50 megapixel ultra wide and a 10 megapixel telephoto, while the wide has two 50 megapixel sensors, one main and one ultra wide. For battery, the Ultra has a slightly larger internal cell at 5000 milliamp hours as opposed to 4800 on the wide. To say the least, there is certainly quite a few differences between these two, seemingly for two somewhat different audiences, all things considered. That said, it seems like even Samsung thinks there's going to be a lot of motion for the Z Fold 8 wide, and it seems like they're prioritizing it over everything else in their lineup. We have a report from ET News detailing Samsung's production plans, breaking it down at around 2.8 million units for the Z Fold 8 wide, 2 million units for the Z Fold 8 Ultra, and just 1.5 million for the Z Flip 8, which is kind of wild to me. I look at the now renamed Z Fold 8 Ultra as Samsung's most consistent, tried and true foldable form factors, so for them to be prioritizing the wide, at least in terms of production numbers by almost a million, tells me that Samsung is expecting this to be a popular option. To me, no doubt it has to be because of Apple's upcoming foldable device, if you ask me. We all know Samsung has been really trying hard to be the first to market when it comes to these big Apple plays. They were the first of the two to release an ultra-thin phone with the S25 Edge in response to the iPhone Air, and now they want to be the first mainstream manufacturer with a wide fold and have plenty of units in rotation to push and compete with. And I get what they're going for here, and all I can say is I hope the wide does as well as Samsung thinks it's going to do. With that said, after spending almost a year and a half with the first gen Pixel Fold and being a huge fan of the form factor, I have to say I have positive vibes about the Z Fold 8 wide. The Passport shade is comfortable and cozy when closed. For those primarily consuming content instead of focusing purely on productivity, the wider inner screen should allow for more opportunities to naturally consume media. One UI is super powerful and full of features, so there's going to be more than enough customization to play around with. All I can think is what Dex is going to be like on the thing opened up so that the widescreen functions as a secondary display. That's going to be an insanely cool experience. Not to mention, the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy is a no compromises chip that should be plenty fast for years to come. On my Galaxy S26 Ultra, it can max out pretty much any Play Store games, which has been a breath of fresh air. And it all comes together to be this light, thin, powerful, pocketed content consumption device that has been ultra refined with Samsung's hardware and software insight. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's basically everything the Pixel Fold was supposed to be hardware-wise before Google decided to switch it up, but I'm happy that Samsung is carrying the torch and I hope it works out for them. That said, my friends, that is more than enough out of me. I feel like I'm being way too positive without actually having a unit in hand, so please take all of this with a grain of salt until it's actually time to review this thing. I will say though, so far, impressions seem good. That said, I am really curious to hear what you guys think down in the comments below. Are you happy to see a wide Passport style device making a comeback? Or are you sticking with the taller, more traditional format that is now renamed to the Z Fold 8 Ultra? Let me know all your thoughts as I love seeing what the Android community is thinking. Until next time, this has been Jordan Floyd with 9to5 Google. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.